I'm Kaleb Rathbone, Assistant Commissioner for Western North Carolina, so down here helping out this week.
Do you see any trends or things looking out in the future with Raleigh's urban development and like maintaining the importance of agriculture and maybe the state's fair's involvement in that and place in that?
Sure. So a big part of the state fair is to spread awareness of the industry and its importance to North Carolina. North Carolina is a rapidly growing state. So with that population growth, we also see a big loss in farmland as development takes place. So over the next the projections are by 2040 we're looking at losing another over 1 million acres of farmland across the state. And so as we become more developed as a state, that awareness of the importance of agriculture is going to be critical to make sure that we're able to maintain policy so that our farmers can keep farming.
I'm curious, someone in here was talking earlier about like smaller farms, family farms, minority-based farms, knowing about kind of the governmental support such as tax breaks and whatnot.
Sure.
So I'm curious about this part of the agricultural education in supporting the farmer fiscally and also with education, possibly spanning into the urban sphere so that agriculture can become more accessible and also get people interested.
So, we are a state made up of small farms. So the vast majority of farms are small family-owned operations. In the department, we actually have a division that's focused solely on small minority farmers, making sure that they have access to the programs that are available to them, whether they're federal programs, state, or grant opportunities. And so our small farms division does a lot of work with that. We also work very closely with NC State Extension and other groups to make sure that if programs are available, those who are eligible to participate are aware of it and know how to apply and take advantage of those programs.
Yeah, I think also in that vein of like NC State's agricultural extension program, I guess like maybe do you want to talk on like this importance of kind of making tangible agriculture, so like workshops, demos, education like you're saying for this next generation. Like I said, there's a guy in here talking earlier about, most people are 3 to 4 generations removed from a farm. So I guess in the coming years, like how might that change and how might you be inspired by the state fair to propel these kind of movements of agriculture back into people's lives?
Sure. So North Carolina has, I'm going to say they have the best extension service in the nation. Maybe a little biased, but I think it can be backed up with numbers. So we have the extension service has offices in all 100 counties, plus an office for the eastern band of the Cherokee in western North Carolina. So NC State staff and faculty in every county, accessible and available to farmers to be able to ask questions, and they really are the front line of making sure that farmers have access to the latest information that's developed on our research stations, or partnering with companies who are doing research to make sure that it is accessible. So those programs are very important at the farm level, but also the youth programs through 4-H, FFA, and like the livestock shows here at the fair. Extension's very involved. And like the livestock shows, the competitive entries at the fairs, historically and still reigns true today, it's a great way for youth to be able to get involved in the industry, understand what it takes to actually raise animals for food or crops that they may enter in the fair. It's also a good way to train work ethic and experience. It's not easy producing the food that we all need on a daily basis. So it gives them a first-hand experience of being able to raise animals.
Yeah, wow. I really like that idea of like you have to see it to know, and then that kind of also can help in sustainability, like divert maybe food waste if you're kind of more aware of like everything that goes into that. Weston and I were going to talk about kind of like livestock care in particular, like largely farming, but livestock particularly as it relates to community ethics and like morale. And I'm curious like if that like inspires anything in you and like what that means to take care of animals, live with them, and kind of produce a community ethic about valuing other lives while simultaneously still supporting our communities sustainably?
Sure. So I grew up raising livestock and showing animals at fairs. My kids have been involved, and so I've experienced and seen firsthand how, it's one thing to read about food production in a textbook, or watch a video on it on YouTube, but to actually experience it, form a bond with those animals, and see what it actually takes to bring them from birth all the way through production. I think it's an important part of developing that appreciation for where food comes from. It gives you a different perspective on waste. Also allows youth to see how what could be waste products in the food production cycle can actually be upcycled through different feed sources for the animals, and being able to have that sustainability in the entire production chain. And another really fascinating piece, so historically, the entire reason that state fairs began was for farmers to bring their best animals, their best crops together, to be able to share with their neighbors, to be able to see the improvements. And it's through those improvements that we actually have a more productive and efficient food production system. And so each year you bring your best through breeding and different husbandry practices, and it actually does improve the efficiency of food production year over year. And so it's a tradition that we're proud to continue.
Yeah, that's a beautiful line. I guess in this way, would you see the fairs as kind of like a skill sharing grounds originally, and hypothetically, hopefully in the future as well?
Absolutely, yeah. And so there's a great speech that Abraham Lincoln actually gave. I think it was at the Wisconsin State Fair, where he talked about the importance of bringing your best to demonstrate and showing progress, and creating two where there was originally one. So that was true in the 1850s, and it's still true today. So I don't know that we're fortunate to be in a business where we will never have the luxury to stop improving how we produce food.
Two to start a race up. That's all it takes, is two to get a race going.